What's up guys, Terilis here with another Overwatch hero overview. I'm looking at Zarya, one of the tanks in Overwatch. Now, Zarya's full name is actually Alexandra Zaryanova. She is Russian, and she was born in a small Siberian village. Now, she was very little during the time of the Omnic crisis, so she basically always grew up in kind of post-war kind of environment. Everything was destroyed, and she hated it. And it really moved her. She wanted to become strong, a strong person in order to kind of combat and fight against, if the Omnics ever came back again, to fight against the problems that, were brought by the Omnics. This was her goal. And so as such, after she became old enough, she began focusing on weightlifting and bodybuilding, and she was identified by the athletics team of Russia, the national athletics program. And so she started training, she became more and more powerful. She became one of the most powerful women in the world. However, as she was coming close to the time of tournaments, the Omnic, a long dormant Siberian omnium, or omnic creature, arose near her village and began to attack. Instead of competing in the competition, Zarya, who did all this really to become strong to fight the Omnics, immediately dropped the tournament and ran back to enlist in the defense forces in order to protect her family and her home village. And this is basically how she came to be. She became a symbol of strength by, sacrificing her, her glory, her, personal chance at championships and tournament wins to be able to be a frontline war hero and save people. So this is Zarya. I would consider her to be one of the weaker tanks in the game, but she kind of, leans towards the support tank, kind of in between aspect of being a tank. So she has more of a support role as a tank as opposed to a just straight beefy tank. Now, her first ability is this particle cannon, and you can basically fire it off, and it's just a straight beam. Pretty powerful. Now, if you want, you can fire it off in a different way. She has an alternate firing method for this cannon, and you use the right click for this. And it's basically kind of like a grenade launcher. It takes 25 ammo at a time. The only problem with it is that its explosion radius is really small. It may knock back enemies just a tiny bit, but its explosion radius is really small, and I don't know how effective it is at actually dealing damage. And at the particle beam, it can be sometimes difficult to keep it on an enemy. So her main weapons are not the best in the game. Definitely, I think the weakest by far of any of the tanks available in game. So that's something to note. However, there is a little additive for this ability. So that additive deals with a 0 at the middle of the screen. Right now it says 0, okay? And I'm gonna go ahead and kill these guys so you can see just how long it takes me to kill them. And then we're going to change things up. Her first ability is known as the particle barrier, okay? It basically puts a barrier around herself. So I'm going to use it, and I'm going to take damage from it. I actually went down before I could take too much damage, but it does have a long cooldown though, so kind of be careful with it. But I will go ahead and use it now. Now, as you see, that number is beginning to rise, and I don't think I can get it high enough to actually do some worth, to actually show you what it does. But I'm going to try to show you what it does to the particle beam. So,
get in there. Ready for battle.
Build myself up. I have 20 power now. Basically what it does is it increases the damage of your weapon. So the more you're attacked from that particle beam, with those shields on, the more I guess, the more the power transfers to your actual main weapon. So she absorbs the damage you take, and then turns it on you. Now, the ability I used just a second ago was a projected barrier, which is her second ability. So her first and second abilities are exactly the same, except for one, you put it on yourself, the other, you project it on someone else. And both of them create an increased damage for the player. I'm going to try and use this and build up my defenses even more. It's pretty difficult to get the particle cannon up, but it does get up there. So we're working on it. We're only at 27, or it was at 27 for a second. And I can use that to build it up even more. So now it's at 30. It has an effect. As you can see, that shot is doing a whole lot more than it did before. So if you take a lot of damage, you can expect to do a lot more damage with Zarya. It's basically you absorb the damage and then you send it back out the other direction. It's not working too well right now, probably because her shields are on such a long cooldown, and there's some fixes that need to be, kind of changed to make it more worthwhile. But it's an interesting concept, and I do think Blizzard would build on it and balance it a little bit. But for now, Zarya's kind of undertuned as a tank and not a very popular option. She only has those shields to deal with, and that's all you can do, are those shields. It does do a lot of damage if you stack it up a lot. I'm not quite sure how much it stacks up to. I think it can possibly stack up to 100, which once you've stacked it up to 100, you're doing an insane amount of damage that you're able to reflect back at your opponent. Now, her last ability is known as Gravity Surge, and it basically, another Heroes of the Storm reference, if you played Gazlo, it's like a grab bomb. I'm going to try to use it on these moving targets. It's probably not the most intelligent decision, is trying to use it on these moving targets, but I want to be able to show you what it's like when targets are trying to move different directions. I'm going to use it right there, and as you can see, they're all dragged in. It does a great deal of damage, and it knocks them all in and groups everyone up. So if you have someone like a Roadhog, or someone that just does a massive amount of damage in a small cone or something like that, it can really be potent putting those two together, and then all of a sudden everyone's dead. So that is her greatest utility. In many ways it feels like Gazlo from Heroes of the Storm, in which his greatest utility is Grab Bomb. Hopefully they buff her shields so that she sees more utility out of them and is able to use them more. But unless they do that, she's going to be probably seeing the back line next to Diva, Winston, Roadhog, and the last tank that has... Oh, that has escaped my mind, yes. I cannot remember the last tank that has escaped my mind. Reinhardt, excuse me. So, I think she'll see the back line next to those, but otherwise she has an interesting kit. But there's some tuning tweaks that need to be done for it to be more effective, and I'm sure that will come through closer to launch for this game. Otherwise, that is everything regarding Zarya. She's not my favorite hero, but to each their own. You may enjoy her inside Overwatch, so I would give her a try and see what she's like. I will see you guys later. Terilis out.